Good morning, friends. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, bright sunshine, and how do you do? I forgot to do something here. Don't need to hear myself on a 7-second delay. But yes, here we are. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, and we are gathering together for another session of our small group PB Reads the Bible. 12/12/24. I thought saw something on Facebook this morning. It said, it's not Tuesday. Did I say Tuesday? I meant to say Thursday if I said Tuesday. Thursday, December 12th. So it's 12/12/24. I saw something interesting on Facebook. That's something that openly happens once every 100 years. Because if you look at it, it's 12 plus 12 equals 24. Anyway. Good morning, Maureen. Good morning. Good to be gathering together with you this morning. Maureen's ahead of the curve here. Checking in before I even told you to, but that's what happens, I guess, when you follow along and you know what I'm going to say. I am very predictable, I guess, in some ways. But yes, please do that, because we are a small group. We're joining together. You're not watching. I know Facebook says you're watching. You're not watching. You're joining. You're engaging. And one of the things we do when we're in a small group is to say hello, greet each other, and also share what's on our hearts and our minds, our prayer requests, our joys and our concerns. Good morning, John and Cindy. Great to have you together. And good morning, Bonnie. Cuz. Good to see you, Cuz. Good to see all of you today. I'd love to be able to see you folks in person, but distance makes that impossible, doesn't it? Distance makes that impossible. But this is wonderful that we're able to be together. We're able to be together in this way. I'm PB. I'm Pastor Brian, pastor here at St. Andrew's United Methodist Church. And PB Reads the Bible is exactly that. I read from the Bible. You follow along or just listen in, and we share. I share comments and commentary, try to help explain things, and you ask your questions and share your comments as well. Good morning, Crystal. Crystal is joining us while she's driving. So, power out already twice. Oh my goodness. Well, prayers for that. It is a windy day, that's for sure. I thought you were going to be driving while you were listening. So don't try to do two things. You don't have to post things if you're driving, please. We don't want car accidents. And I'll see you in a couple hours. Crystal, and I'm not going to say helping, Crystal is organizing the children for Christmas Eve to do, I guess you should say a Christmas pageant. We're going to, it's not a full-blown thing, but they're going to play different roles from the Christmas story while the story is being read, which is wonderful. And she has taken over that job, and she's doing a great job at it. And we'll be looking at costumes and stuff today. So look forward to that, Crystal, as we draw closer and closer to Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is only 12 days away. But thank you again for doing that. So again, and if you're not able to join us live, which I know sometimes that happens, you're joining us some other time. Amazing to me, and very humbling that you find the time to join us. Let me know. You can still check in. Hello, Tina. To see Tina has joined us. I know sometimes it's hard. Oh, and good morning. Excuse me. I do go back in a couple times throughout the day between sessions to make sure that I caught everything that you've shared. So ask your questions. If I don't get to it today, I'll get back to you as soon as I can, as soon as I see that video. So like I said, we share things to pray about. Crystal had asked for prayers for one of her son Nelson, one of his classmates, and now I'm going by memory here. father died. So I don't think could have been too old, and right before Christmas. So we're going to keep them in our prayers. That's for sure. That whole family, as they deal with the darkness, but the light is coming. And God's light shines into the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. Thank you, Gospel of John. So let's have prayers. I'll do, and then we'll get into our reading. I'll save the announcements for the end of our time together. Good and gracious God, we thank you for your presence in our lives on a daily basis. Every moment of every day, you are with us. And we are so thankful that your light, and the light that was brought to earth in the form of your Son, Jesus, the second personage of the Trinity, a light that shines in the darkness and can never be overcome. As we prepare to welcome that light into our world and into our lives once again with Christmas Eve, help us to reflect the light into the darkness of the lives of people around us. And we do lift to you all those who are in grief, who are mourning this day. In particular, we mentioned the family of Nelson's classmate. May they feel your comfort and your strength guiding them, and may they be surrounded by love and care of their neighbors and their family and complete strangers. God, of course, you know everything else that's on our hearts and our minds, even things that haven't crossed our lips this morning, and so we lift all of that to you. And we do continue to pray for those twins that were born so small, and for the parents, Peter and Taylor. We also ask, God, that your Spirit will open our hearts and our minds this morning to what you would have us receive as we engage with the Bible today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Sorry about that, folks. All right. All right, so we are on Genesis chapter 24. We're getting there. We're getting there, my friends. We're getting there. Now, this is a much longer chapter than we've been reading lately. The last couple chapters were relatively short. This one, not so much. In fact, it's 67 verses long. Definitely need my tea nearby as I'm as we're reading from this. Good morning, Kim. Good to have you joining with us today. Good to see you. All right, so we're on chapter 24, but you know what else that means, my friends? We're one chapter away from being halfway through the book of Genesis. Yes, because there are 50 chapters in the book of Genesis. And we're almost halfway there. We're on 24. So let's read it, and this is the last one that Abraham's really going to have a part in. Okay. That's part of the reason for this chapter. Is you'd say like a segue into the next generation, or setting it up for the next generation. Abraham's last real scene on the stage. So, 24. Now, Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his house, who had charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by Yahweh, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but will go to my country and to my kindred and get a wife for my son Isaac. The servant said to him, Perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham said to him, See to it that you do not take my son back there. Yahweh, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and swore to me, To your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this oath of mine. Only you must not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Pause. We're going to pause there. So this gets it started. So Abraham is old, but it's just kind of recapping how God has blessed him and been with him through his whole life, and he now has, and Sarah's died, and we're going to find out at the end of the chapter. It almost sounds like Isaac's been kind of moping, we might say, in his grief, in his grief. So Abraham figures, let's get him a wife. But he doesn't want a wife from the Canaanites. He wants family. He wants family. So he's sending his oldest servant, which is possibly Eliezer, who was mentioned earlier, before Abraham had any kids. He mentions him as his oldest, his trusted servant. And he said, I don't want to leave everything I have to him. So it's quite possible that's who he's talking about. It's not mentioned here. Now it says, put your hand under my thigh, and that's the translation in both of these, probably in almost all. It's actually more of a euphemism. It's not literally thigh, although it's close. Under my genitals would be more correct, because it's like life. It's like you're promising life. You're swearing on life. That he's going to follow through with it. And Abraham wants him to make this promise and wants him to go back and get a woman from there, from my country, and do not, what if she doesn't want to come? Do not take Isaac back there. So why? Well, because of the promise. Because of the promise. This is the land that's promised to me and my children. Don't take my son away from the promise. Don't take my son away from the promise. Go get him a wife from there. In a way, in a very real way. This might be a little early to say it. Hang on to that thought, Brian. I'll get there. We'll get there. But that's what this is all being set up. He doesn't want a local woman. He wants family. Don't take my son back there. But notice verse 8. Very, very interesting. Very, very thing. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from the oath. He says God's going to send an angel ahead of you. You everything will be fine. God will make it right. Which is interesting because Abraham is starting this whole thing, right? This isn't initiated by God. This whole thing is being initiated by Abraham. And yet Abraham believes that God will respond to his initiative. That God will respond to Abraham's initiative by sending an angel ahead of him, preparing the way. Good time of year for that, to have that thought, right? and yet he says, if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you'll be free from the oath. So he's giving the woman the opportunity to say no. That's kind of unusual. That's really unusual when we think about it. He's putting it all in the woman's hands. It's up to her whether or not she wants to do this. And what is it that he's asking her to do? To leave her family, to leave her land, and come to the land of Canaan. It's interesting because he's giving a woman that power to do it, but he's also allowing, even though he said God is going to be going ahead of time, he's still allowing for the possibility that human decisions can interrupt and interfere and affect God's will and God's plan, which I believe too. And God will find another way. Okay, picking up from there. Because we got to move, right? We're only 9 verses in. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all kinds of choice gifts from his master. And he set out and went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. Now, Nahor was a person's name, but it's one of those things where the person's name becomes a place name. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water. It was toward evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, O Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. I am standing here by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. Let the girl to whom I shall say, please offer your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels, let her be the one by whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master. Pause. Notice the language is repeatedly speaking about his master. His master, and maybe it's not a great prayer, but it's and he's going to be continuing to use this language. He uses the word master like 20 some times as he's talking about Abraham. Abraham, my master. And he refers to himself as a servant like 17 times or something like that throughout this chapter. And the master is Abraham. Hold on to that one too, by the way. But these are the signs. Let this happen. And let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. Okay, verse 15. Before he had finished speaking, there was Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, coming out with her water jar on her shoulder. The girl was very fair to look upon, a virgin whom no man had known. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please, let me sip a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw for your camels also, until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw, and she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether or not Yahweh had made his journey successful. Pause. So, a few things. First of all, Rebekah is doing wonderful hospitality, right? She reminds me, and I think she's meant to. I think the author and editor is intending her to be like I guess a female Abraham. She's top notch in hospitality. Not only is she taking care of him, giving him some water, because he's there at the well. This is almost like the town square. Their well, though, is outside the city. You see somebody at the well, the hospitality rule, right? The hospitality rule. So she's doing a very good job of hospitality. Not only, like following the rules, shall we say, the letter of his request. Give me a little something to drink. Okay, you had your fill, good. See ya. No, you have a drink. You know what? While you're doing that, I'm going to take care. I'm going to water your camels. He's got 10 camels. He's got 10 camels. And she said, I will draw water for them until they have finished drinking. And all she's got is this one jar, right? This one water carrying jar. She's going back and forth from the well to the trough to water 10 camels. I don't know volumes, but I've always been told that camels can drink a lot. And then they go, of course, long times without drinking. But if you're putting water in front of them, they're going to fill up. And the man gazed at her in silence to learn whether or not Yahweh had made his journey successful. Notice he doesn't jump to any conclusions. And we don't know, we're not told what it is that he sees that convinces him, ultimately convinces him that she's the one. So far, as the reader, we can see it. As the reader, we see, it's got to be her. But for whatever reason, he doesn't jump quite to that conclusion. He takes a moment. He takes a breath. He stops and he thinks about it. He ponders it. He watches her. Then, what happens? And he's got plenty of time to do that. He's got plenty of time for pondering because she's watering 10 camels. So, verse 22. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels, and said, Tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. She added, We have plenty of straw and fodder and a place to spend the night. The man bowed his head and worshipped Yahweh, and said, Blessed be Yahweh, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and his faithfulness toward my master. As for me, Yahweh has led me on the way to the house of my master's kin. Pause. Okay, so now the servant has made the decision. She must be the right one, right? But he asks this question. Now it's absolutely confirmed based on the fact that she is a relative of Abraham. Best we can figure from how they say it, if we read it literally, she's Nahor's granddaughter. So she would be Abraham's great niece? Yeah, I think so. I think that's how that works. And she's second cousin or first cousin twice removed. I can never figure those out. Of Isaac. Of Isaac. Almost a generation later, because Abraham was sold when he had Isaac. Pause while I drink. So all of this has been taking place at the well. We're going to see a similar thing taking place multiple times in Scripture. In a handful of chapters, a number of chapters, when Isaac and Rebekah's son Jacob meets Rachel at the well, and same well. And you'll also see it in the book of the Exodus when Moses meets Zipporah at the well. And so those are 3 cases of men and women meeting each other at the well, excuse me, and ending up getting married. So you could say they met at the local, just like a lot of couples today, right? They met at the local watering hole. Anyway, but it's not unusual. I mean, if you really think about it, because of how important water is, for multiple reasons. I mean, you're living in a dry land, and you need water, and it's a gathering place. It's a gathering place, at least at the right times. Okay. Verse 28. Almost halfway through. Bear with me. Then the girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. And Laban ran out to the man to the spring. As soon as he had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, and when he heard the words of his sister Rebekah, Thus the man spoke to me, he went to the man, and there he was, standing by the camels at the spring. He said, "Come in, O blessed of Yahweh. Why do you stand outside when I have prepared the house and a place for the camels?" So the man came into the house, and Laban unloaded the camels and gave him straw and fodder for the camels and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have told my errand." He said, "Speak on." Pause. So Laban is also doing an excellent job of hospitality. Excellent job of hospitality. Bringing water to wash his feet, not only his feet, but the feet of his men, which is, low job. Doesn't say Laban actually does it, right? But he brings them water so that they can wash their own feet. Brings them food, hay, straw for the camels, everything the camels need, and brings food for the servant and his men that came with him. But the servant says, "I need to tell you why I'm here. I need to tell you what my errand is." Now, this next passage, this next session, is mostly him repeating a lot of what we've already read. There are a couple differences, not a lot, but a couple. So he said, "I am Abraham's servant. Yahweh has greatly blessed my master, and he has become wealthy. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female slaves, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and he has given me all that he has. My master made me swear, saying, 'You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I live. But you shall go to my father's house, to my kindred, and get a wife for my son.'" Pause. Notice so he says mostly what Abraham says, but notice what he does not say. He does not say, "Do not take my son back to that land." Okay? So what he's avoiding saying is very political. Right? He's being very politically astute. He doesn't want to insult him by saying, Abraham must think this is a lousy place to live. He doesn't want his son coming back here. Right? Picking up, 39. "I said to my master, 'Perhaps the woman will not follow me.' But he said to me, 'Yahweh, before whom I walk, will send his angel with you and make your way successful. You shall get a wife for my son from my kindred, from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath when you come to my kindred. Even if they will not give her to you, you will be free from my oath.'" Pause. Another change. Abraham said the woman would be able to decide, but the servant changes it slightly to the family. "Even if they will not give her to you, you will be free from my oath." Right? 42. So, and again, politically astute, we might say. Verse 42. "I came today to the spring and said, 'O Yahweh, the God of my master Abraham, if now you will only make successful the way I am going, I am standing here by the spring of water. Let the young woman who comes out to draw, to whom I shall say, "Please give me a little water from your jar to drink," and who will say to me, "Drink, and I will draw for your camels also," let her be the woman whom Yahweh has appointed for my master's son." Before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebekah coming out with her water jar on her shoulder. And she went down to the spring and drew. I said to her, "Please let me drink." She quickly let down her jar from her shoulder and said, "Drink, and I will also water your camels." So I drank, and she also watered the camels. Then I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She said, "The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him." So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Then I bowed my head and worshipped Yahweh, and blessed Yahweh, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me by the right way to obtain the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you will deal loyally and truly with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me, so that I may turn either to the right hand or to the left. Pause. that part was pretty much word for word what we already read, right? But he's just recapping. He's retelling the story to Laban. Notice who's only mentioned once at a time. That is mentioned as being the daughter of Bethuel. She's mentioned as being the daughter of Bethuel, but we never see Bethuel. He's only referred to. I think we can presume. I think this is an accurate presumption or assumption that Bethuel is probably dead, and Laban is now the leader of the clan, because he was. We can presume he's the eldest son of Bethuel, and probably like the kinsman redeemer, the closest relative to her. Anyway, the servant retells the story that we just read, and ends it with that little phrase, if you will deal loyally and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, so that I may turn either to the right hand or to the left. The NIV grasps that very well. Literally, this is what it says: that I may turn either to the right or to the left. The NIV paraphrases it slightly, grasps the idiom quite well, and says, so that I may know which way to turn. I'm waiting for an answer from you, so I know where to go next, is what he's saying. Then Laban and Bethuel. Oh, I was wrong. There is Bethuel. That's interesting. But Laban does more than Bethuel does. Anyway, then Laban and Bethuel answered the thing. Sorry about that, friends. Forget what I said about Bethuel. Laban and Bethuel answered, the thing comes from Yahweh. We cannot speak to you anything bad or good. Look, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go and let her be the wife of your master's son, as Yahweh has spoken. Pause. So, Abraham said it's going to be up to the woman to decide. It's going to be her choice. If she says no, then that's fine. You're released from it. But the servant had changed it and said the clan decides, and the family is agreeing. They're saying, okay, we can see God at work in this. And notice they're using Yahweh. So they must be, even though we don't know much about them, right? It sounds like they were Yahwists. So pick up from there, verse 52. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the ground before Yahweh. And then the servant brought out jewelry of silver and of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. Pause. We could say like the dowry, right? And he's paying off the family as well. He also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they rose in the morning, he said, send me back to my master. Her brother and her mother said, let the girl remain with us a while, at least 10 days. After that, she may go. Pause. Now, that sounds duplicitous, but actually it was a common practice. It was a common practice. Just let her, from the culture at the time, let her stay with us a little while, just to kind of wrap things up. Before she heads away. Verse 56, but he said to them, do not delay me. Since Yahweh has made my journey successful, let me go, that I may go to my master. They said, we will call the girl and ask her, will you go with this man? Ask her. And they called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? She said, I will. Pause. Wow. So she is ultimately making the decision, just as Abraham had said. Wild, right? Wild. So they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse, along with Abraham's servant and his men, and they blessed Rebekah and said to her, may you, our sister, become thousands of myriads. May your offspring gain possession of the gates of their foes. Then Rebekah and her maids rose up, mounted the camels, and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Pause. So we see now in this story we can see that that Rebecca is now like the new Abraham. And that might not be the best way to phrase it, but that's what I'm saying, or the female Abraham, whatever. She is mirroring Abraham's story. That Abraham God called Abraham to leave his family, to leave this land, to go to this new land that he was giving her, that God was going to give him, and the promises of all the other stuff that goes along with it. We see Rebecca now becoming that same character, leaving family, leaving that same land to go to this new promised land, as well as these promises. The family is blessing her, but we can see that it's very similar to the promises that God had given to Abraham. And yeah, it's a common one to give to a woman, that she's going to be fertile, have lots of kids, and that they will be strong and be able to defeat their enemies. And they sent her away with her nurses. In other words, servants to take care of the kids. So they're so confident that she's going to have kids that they send the servants along with her nurses. So, and they went his way. Picking up from there, verse 62. Now Isaac had come from Beer Lahai Roi and was settled in the Negeb. Isaac went out in the evening to walk in the field, and looking up, he saw camels coming. And Rebekah looked up, and when she saw Isaac, she slipped quickly from the camel, and said to the servant, "Who is the man over there, walking in the field to meet us?" The servant said, "It is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. He took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Pause. End of chapter 24. Okay, so again, we see Isaac doing a little moving around, right? But he's now settled in the Negeb, and he's out in the field. We don't really know what that word walk means, the Hebrew word means, but it seems to make the most sense that he's out walking in the field. He's a farmer. He's a man out standing in his field, and he sees camels coming, so he's walking towards them to see what's going on. Rebekah slips down, wants to know who it is. What does the servant say? "It is my master." It is my master. That's the term he had used for Abraham. All those times so far in this chapter, all the times he used the word master, he was talking about Abraham. Now, Isaac is the master. Boom. Sometimes those little things that we let slide by us have big impact. Isaac is now the master. Isaac's going to be taking center stage as Abraham walks off. Now she does something. She takes her veil and covers herself. This can be symbolic for her willingness and her agreement to become Isaac's wife. So she puts the veil around herself. The servant tells Isaac everything that he's done, and Isaac brings her into his mother's tent, Sarah's tent. Symbolically then, Rebekah is now becoming the matriarch. Sarah was the matriarch. She's dead. There is no matriarch. He brings Rebekah into Sarah's tent, symbolically making her the next matriarch for the family. She's there. And she became his wife, and he loved her. The author or editor seemed to be making the point that although it was an arranged marriage, Isaac loved Rebekah. A wonderful story, right? Wonderful end to that story, too. All right, that's going to be it for today as far as our reading. Let's talk a couple announcements, shall we? First is, today's Thursday, so this is our last session, our last gathering of our small group, PB Reads the Bible, for this week. We will be back at it next week. Next week, both Tuesday and Thursday. Looks good for me, Tuesday and Thursday. So Tuesday, December 17th will be our next one, and Thursday, the 19th, we will also be gathering together, 9 o'clock both of those days. Of course, between Thursday and Tuesday is Sunday, and is also Saturday. So if you're in the area, Saturday and Sunday, we're doing open houses at the house. Sue and I got lots of cookies to share with you folks, homemade cookies, and well, one isn't homemade. One is Nutter Butters, but we modified them. We dipped them in melted chocolate. So. But we're being very conscientious too, because I know some folks have allergies. So anything that has peanut butter is being kept in its own container. We're not going to have any cross contamination. We don't want that to happen. We want everyone to be safe and have a great time. So if you're in the area, stop in and join us for one or two or all three of those open house opportunities. I think it's 1 to 3 and 6 to 8 on Saturday and 2 to 4 on Sunday. I believe that's what we scheduled on that. You can check it's posted there on Facebook. Down a little ways, you can check the last newsletter. You can check bulletins, etc. You'll see it there somewhere, I'm sure. So please join us. And then, of course, on Sunday we also have Sunday School and Worship. Sunday School is at 9 o'clock. Worship is at 10:30. Sunday School is in person only, but love to have you there. Worship at 10:30 is in person as well as live streamed online. This week, so if you can't make it in person, you're too far away, you're sick, join us live stream right here on Facebook. This week we are continuing our series, The Light of the World. This is week 3, with the theme is Revelation, Joy in the Unveiling. And this is week 3 of Advent, is the week of joy. So that's what our theme is going to be. Please join us for that. And that's it. That's it. Advance announcement, Christmas Eve. We will be gathering together for Christmas Eve, 12 days today, right? So Tuesday, December 24th. Pre-worship music will begin 6:30-ish. Might be closer to 6:40 before we actually start. Depends on how much we get together. And then worship starts at 7 o'clock. And that will be live streamed, just in case you can't make it in person. So that's it, my friends. I pray that today has been beneficial to you, that our session, that you've learned something or relearned something, that God has spoken to you in some way through what we've said and read today. As you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears, physical and spiritual, open to everything our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, "Thank you, God," and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.